Hello, YouTube. There's something I've seen on the internet, probably 3, 4, 5, who knows, maybe several times, I don't know. I'm trying not to keep count because at some point this is just starting to aggravate me for some strange reason. I don't know how else to say it. But I'm watching this video. Who's it by? How to Home is what it's titled. He's talking about properly wiring a receptacle. Okay? So, like, you know, you have your receptacle, you got your small hole or slot, your bigger slot, and then you got your ground connection. So, I don't know how well you can see that. You know, inside a receptacle, you got your small slot, large slot, and ground. So, ground goes back to the fuse box on a bare wire. That's why they call it the ground. It's separate from the neutral, which goes to the larger slot. The reason they make this slot smaller is, I guess, to designate, well, that's the hot wire, or should be the hot wire. In other words, the wire that's not common to earth. This wire is common to earth, and so is this one. Which, in a grounded system, which all AC is, you are standing on half the conductor at all times. Okay? Because ground is half of its conductor. The reason it is because it's tied to ground in your fuse box. These wires go back to your fuse box, and then they go out into the ground into a stake, which makes the earth and water pipes and everything else ground. So that's because they do that. That's, you know, bonding everything to the earth, making it a conductor. So as you stand on it, you're standing on a conducting surface, if you think about it, because it's tied there. So that's where you're set. So if you accidentally touch the hot wire, which is the one that's not common to ground, you can get, a shock, or you can get electrocuted. Years ago when I worked in electronics, they had what was called isolation transformers. So what that did was, the AC went into a transformer. It came out the other side as the same voltage. It wasn't a step up. It wasn't a step down. It wasn't a step aside. It was just same ratio of turns. So whatever you put in, you got out. Same thing. No difference. But what the isolation transformer did was it separated that grounding effect. In other words, when it came out of the transformer, neither of those two leads were now common to ground, so it lifted that ground potential away from the system. So the only way that you can get shocked is if you came across both leads of that secondary transformer. That's how you would get a shock. But if you could touch either one of them by itself and not get a shock, because neither of them was common to ground. That's what I'm getting at, the common to ground thing. That's why you get a shock only from one side of the of the electrical socket, not from the other, because the other side is neutral or ground, which you're standing on. So as long as your neutral or your ground is not open with a load, you cannot get shocked from the neutral. However, you can get a shock from the neutral if your neutral is broken before it gets back to the fuse box, because after the voltage goes through the device, it's coming back on the neutral. Thinking about it is just flowing in one way. Yeah, it's coming back on the neutral. So if the neutral connection is broken to the fuse box, you can get shocked from the neutral. But normally, no. Not under normal circumstances, that's not true. But anyway, getting back to the other thing that I was trying to explain about is like he's talking about, a miswired receptacle. Well, you know what? This is AC. It has no polarity. So if the black wire is here and the white wire is there, yeah, you can say, well, it's properly wired to code. But if the black wire was here and the white wire was on the left to the smaller terminal, they're calling that miswired. Well, you know what? It's AC. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have a polarity. It's not like a battery. I mean, you could put a battery in backwards, but how do you flip AC? You can't. It's AC. You know, neither way will matter to a device when you plug it in, because it's alternating current. It does not have polarity. There's only two dangers that arise from a miswired socket, and I'll explain both of them to you very simply. One would be like if a socket's miswired, you plug something in and you're working on it as it's plugged in, and the unit's off or whatever. You can assume that, well, you'll see black and white wires inside the unit, and knowing electrical code, black is normally hot. However, or the one that's not common to ground, the one that can give you a shock. However, in a miswired situation like that, now the white is the hot and the black is the neutral. So that's one danger, that a miswired socket can, cause. As I said, if you're working on something plugged in. And there is one other situation I ran into a long time ago, good 30, 40 years ago. Old tube amplifiers had a capacitor in them that was tied from the neutral wire to the case of the unit. And the reason they did that was it helped bypass all the unwanted noise and interference from the case of the unit to ground, because they knew that the neutral eventually went back to ground when it reached the fuse box. And that would really quiet the amplifier down a lot and make it really quiet. However, again, in that situation, which that don't arise too often because of, how many old tube amps like that are there out there in the world anymore? I'm not even sure. But anyway, if the neutral in that case was hot and the hot was neutral, then that capacitor would be tied from the hot wire to the case, and touching that case, yeah, you will get a shock. But that's the only instance that I know of where, this type of a wiring could be potentially dangerous, that you can either get a shock or get electrocuted. But other than that, like I said, it's AC. It has no polarity. If black's here or black's here, white's here or there, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's AC. It's not a battery, okay? So your device will work either way normally, and that's that. End of story. I just get so mad when these people say, oh, it's a fire hazard and this and that. No, it's not a fire hazard. I think you have a brain hazard. Because, how many times do I have to say it? It's AC. It has no polarity. The load does not care which phase is where, because it's going to operate the same. It's not like I said, something that operates on DC where a polarity has to be made in order for the device to work properly, like LEDs, whatever. You put the batteries in backwards, the device don't work because they're polarized devices. They have to have the right polarity, and transistors and everything else. But yeah, AC like light bulbs and stuff like that does not matter. AC is AC. DC is DC, and that is all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. See you all again later. Bye-bye.